The first punch never landed. It stopped mid-air, inches from my face, frozen like the man throwing it had just realized something was terribly, terribly wrong. And in that single second, everything changed. Because the man who came to teach me a lesson had just understood he had made the biggest mistake of his life. Before we dive deeper, I want to ask you something real quick. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your country or city in the comments. I always love seeing how far these stories reach. And hey, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to Stone Tales. We bring you powerful, emotional stories just like this. Stories that stay with you long after they end. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Daniel Carter. To most people, I was just another quiet, average guy. 35, married, living in a modest house on the outskirts of town. I worked a normal job as a physical trainer at a local gym. Nothing flashy, nothing that would turn heads. People saw me and thought, safe, boring, predictable. Even my own wife thought that. And that was my biggest advantage. Because what nobody knew, what I had spent years making sure nobody knew, was that before this life, I had trained killers. I wasn't just in the military. I was a Navy SEAL instructor. For 8 years, I had pushed men to their limits, broken them down, rebuilt them, taught them how to survive when everything around them was trying to kill them. Pain didn't scare me. Fear didn't control me. And violence? Violence was something I understood better than most people understand their own heartbeat. But I left that life behind, or at least I thought I did. I met Sarah 5 years ago. She was beautiful in that effortless way. Sharp eyes, confident smile, the kind of woman who knew she was being watched when she walked into a room. At first, she was drawn to my calmness. "You're different," she used to say. "You don't try too hard." Back then, I thought that was a compliment. We got married 2 years later. At first, everything seemed perfect. But slowly, things began to change. It started small, late nights, phone calls she would take in another room, a shift in how she looked at me, like I had become invisible. Then came the comments. "You don't have any ambition, Daniel. You're too comfortable. Do you even want more out of life?" I didn't respond. I just watched. Because in my world, you don't react too quickly. You observe. You wait. You gather information. And eventually, the truth reveals itself. The first real sign came one evening when she forgot her phone on the kitchen counter. It buzzed once, then again, then again. I wasn't the kind of man who checked phones, but something about the way her entire energy had changed over the past few months, something told me I needed to look. So I did. One message. That's all it took. "I miss you already." Tonight wasn't enough. My chest didn't tighten. My heart didn't race. Instead, everything went quiet, calm, cold, focused. I didn't scroll further. I didn't need to. I already knew. That night, when she came home, I acted normal. We ate dinner. We talked about nothing. She smiled. I smiled. But inside, I was already planning. Not revenge. Not yet. First, confirmation. Over the next few weeks, I watched her more carefully than I had ever watched anything in my life. Patterns, timings, excuses, everything. And eventually, I found him. His name was Marcus Reed. Tall, built, confident. The kind of man who looked dangerous, but only on the surface. I had seen hundreds like him. Men who relied on size, attitude, and intimidation, but lacked real discipline. He drove a black SUV, expensive, flashy, the kind of car meant to be noticed, and Sarah noticed. Of course she did. The first time I saw them together, I was sitting in my car across the street from a restaurant. They laughed. They touched. She leaned into him like she used to lean into me. And when he kissed her, I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Because confrontation without leverage is weakness. And I don't do weakness. Instead, I waited. Because people like Marcus, they don't just want something. They want to own it. They want to dominate it. And eventually, they always overstep. It happened sooner than I expected. It was a Friday evening. I had just finished a session at the gym and was heading home when I noticed something strange. Sarah's car wasn't in the driveway, but there was another car parked outside. Black SUV, Marcus. I didn't rush inside. I didn't call. I didn't panic. I simply walked to the front door, unlocked it, and stepped in. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard it. Laughter from the bedroom. I stood there for a moment, not angry, not shaking, just listening, and then I walked toward the sound. The door was slightly open. I pushed it gently, and there they were. They both froze. Sarah's face drained of color. Marcus turned, surprised, then quickly composed himself. He didn't look ashamed. He didn't look scared. He looked amused. "Well," he said, stepping forward, adjusting his shirt. "Guess the husband's home." Sarah scrambled to speak. "Daniel, I can explain." I raised a hand. "I don't." My voice was calm. Too calm. Marcus chuckled. "Man, I gotta say, you're taking this better than I expected." I didn't respond. I just looked at him, studied him, measured him. He walked closer. Too close. "You see," he continued, "Sarah told me about you." I tilted my head slightly. "Oh? Yeah," he smirked. "Said you're harmless." I almost smiled. He leaned in, his voice dropping. "So let's make this simple," he said. "You walk away, quietly, and we won't have a problem." Sarah looked between us, panicking. "Marcus, please." But he ignored her, because men like him, they don't think there are consequences. I stepped back slightly, creating space, not retreating. Positioning. "Is that so?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah, that's how this works." I looked at Sarah, then back at him. Then I said something that made him laugh. "You really don't know who you're talking to, do you?" He grinned. "Oh, I know exactly who I'm talking to." And then he swung, fast, aggressive, confident, but not trained, because the moment his fist left his shoulder, I already knew exactly where it was going, exactly how fast, exactly how to stop it. And that's when everything changed. His punch stopped mid-air. My hand wrapped around his wrist like steel. His eyes widened. Just a fraction, but enough. "Lesson number 1, I said quietly. "Never throw a punch you can't finish." His smirk faded slowly, and for the first time, Marcus Reed realized he wasn't in control anymore. But what he didn't know was that this was only the beginning, because I hadn't even started teaching yet. Marcus tried to pull his hand back. He couldn't. Not because I was using all my strength, lal, but because I wasn't. That's what confused him the most. His confidence cracked first, then his expression, then his entire body shifted from aggressive to uncertain. And that shift, that's where control changes hands. Let go, he snapped, trying to sound tough. I didn't move. Instead, I leaned slightly closer, just enough for him to feel my presence. Lesson number 2, I said calmly. Strength without control is useless. Then I twisted, not hard, just enough. His knees bent instantly. A sharp gasp escaped his mouth as his body followed the pressure like it had no choice. Because it didn't. "Daniel, stop!" Sarah cried. Her voice was shaking now. Not angry, not defensive, afraid. But I wasn't looking at her. I was still watching Marcus, studying how quickly arrogance turns into panic. I released his wrist. He stumbled back, grabbing his arm, trying to regain his composure, trying to act like he was still in control. But the illusion was gone. "What the hell was that?" he muttered. I straightened my shirt slowly, calm, collected, like nothing had happened. "You wanted to teach me a lesson," I said, "so I thought I'd return the favor." He laughed. But it wasn't the same laugh as before. It was forced, thin, uncertain. "You think you're tough?" he said, shaking his head. "You got lucky." I didn't argue, didn't raise my voice, didn't step forward, because I didn't need to. "Marcus," I said quietly, "do you know what happens when someone underestimates the person standing in front of them?" He didn't answer, but his jaw tightened. "They lose," I finished. The room went silent, heavy, thick with tension. Sarah stepped forward, her eyes darting between us. "Please, both of you, just stop. This is getting out of hand." I finally looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time that night, I saw something I hadn't expected. Regret. But it was too late for that. "You made your choice," I said. My voice wasn't angry, just final. Tears welled in her eyes. "Daniel, I didn't mean for this to—" "To what?" I cut in gently. "To hurt me?" She couldn't answer, because the truth was obvious. I turned back to Marcus. "Now," I said, "let's talk about your lesson." He scoffed. "I'm not here to talk." "Good," I replied. "Neither am I." And that's when he charged. This time, there was no hesitation, no warning, just raw aggression, but aggression without discipline is predictable. He swung wide, too wide. I stepped inside his reach. My shoulder drove into his chest. My hand redirected his arm. My foot swept his balance. In less than a second, Marcus hit the floor, hard. The impact knocked the air out of him. A sharp, choking sound filled the room as he struggled to breathe. I didn't follow up, didn't strike again, didn't escalate, because I didn't need to. I simply stood over him, looking down, not with anger, not with hatred, with control. "Lesson number 3, I said. "Fighting isn't about how hard you hit." He coughed, trying to push himself up. "It's about who stays standing." Sarah rushed to his side. "Marcus, are you okay?" He nodded weakly, still trying to catch his breath. But his eyes, they were different now. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something else. Fear. He looked up at me, really looked this time, as if trying to figure out who I actually was. "You?" he said, his voice strained. "You're not just some gym guy." I exhaled slowly. For a moment, I considered staying silent, keeping the mask on. But then I realized something. This wasn't just about him or Sarah. This was about truth. I spent 8 years, I said calmly, training men to survive in the worst conditions imaginable. His eyes widened slightly. I taught them how to fight, I continued, how to think under pressure, how to break people without even trying. The room felt smaller now, tighter. I was a Navy SEAL instructor. Silence. Heavy, unavoidable. Sarah's hand slowly slipped from Marcus's shoulder. Her face went pale. "You what?" she whispered. I looked at her, not with anger, not with pride, just honesty. "You always said I lacked ambition," I said, "that I was comfortable." A tear rolled down her cheek. "I wasn't comfortable," I continued. I was finished. Marcus slowly got to his feet, careful, cautious. He didn't step closer this time, didn't speak with arrogance. He kept his distance. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" he asked. I shrugged slightly. "Because I didn't need to," and that was the truth. I hadn't built my life on proving something to others. I had built it on peace, on quiet, on control. But peace only works when it's respected. I walked toward the door, slowly. Neither of them stopped me. But just before I stepped out, I paused. "Marcus," I said without turning around. He stiffened. "If you ever step into my home again," I let the sentence hang, not as a threat, not as intimidation, as a fact. "Make sure you know exactly who you're dealing with." Then I left. No shouting, no drama, no chaos, just silence. The next few days were quiet, unnaturally quiet. Sarah tried to call, text, explain. I didn't respond, because some actions don't need explanations. I filed for divorce. Simple, clean, final. Marcus, he never came back, never called, never tried anything again. But word spreads, especially when pride gets shattered. A few weeks later, I heard from someone at the gym that Marcus had been telling people about what happened. Not the full truth, of course not, but enough. Enough for people to start asking questions. Enough for the image he built to crack. And that's the thing about men like him. They rely on perception, on fear, on image. Take that away. A day halts, and there's nothing left. As for me, I went back to my routine. Training, working, living. But something had changed. Not in my strength, not in my mindset, in my understanding. I realized that hiding who you are isn't always strength. Sometimes it gives the wrong people the confidence to test you. And sometimes you have to remind them, not with anger, not with revenge, but with truth. Months later, I saw Sarah one last time, by accident, at a cafe. She looked different, quieter. She approached me slowly. "Nervous?" "Daniel," she said softly. I nodded. "I'm sorry," she added. I studied her for a moment. Then I gave a small, calm nod. "I know," I said, and that was it. No anger, no closure speech, no drama. Because some lessons don't need words. They just need to be lived. Never underestimate the quiet person in the room. The one who doesn't brag. The one who doesn't show off. The one who walks away instead of fighting. Because sometimes that person isn't weak. They're simply waiting. And when the moment comes, they don't lose control. They reveal it. If this story hit you in any way, let me know in the comments. What would you have done in Daniel's place? And don't forget to subscribe to Stone Tales for more powerful stories like this.